Islamic Concept of Law by Shaykh Muhammad Tahir-ul-Qadri. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Sufi Essence with Hammad Syed. In the contemporary Islamic discourse, the concept of law, or Shari'ah, is often a subject of intense scrutiny and misunderstanding. It is frequently portrayed as a rigid, inflexible, and even anachronistic system, detached from the realities of the modern world. However, for a true scholar who embodies both the depth of classical knowledge and the dynamism of modern thought, Islamic law is a vibrant, living, and profoundly ethical system rooted in a divine and compassionate vision for humanity. One such scholar, a jurist and spiritual master who has dedicated his life to articulating this holistic view, is Shaykh Muhammad Tahir-ul-Qadri. As the founder of Minhaj al-Qur'an International, Shaykh Qadri's work spans a multitude of fields, from jurisprudence and hadith to theology and Sufism. His legal philosophy is not a dry academic exercise, but a synthesis of classical, Islamic, legal theory, usual al-Fiqh, and a deep spiritual sensibility. It is a philosophy that sees the law not just as a set of rules, but as a means of spiritual purification, tazkiyah, and a path to drawing closer to Allah. The law, in his view, is a manifestation of divine mercy, rahmah, and justice, adl, designed to bring about the ultimate good of humanity. Our discourse today will be a comprehensive and exhaustive scholarly exploration of this profound legal philosophy. In this extensive script, we will argue that Tahir-ul-Qadri's contribution is a revival, tashdid of classical Islamic legal thought for the modern age. A revival that emphasizes its intellectual rigor, its dynamic nature, and, most importantly, its spiritual and ethical dimensions. We will delve into his profound understanding of the foundational sources of Islamic law, the methodology of its application, and the ultimate objectives of the Shari'ah. This is not just a lecture on law. It is a journey into a holistic and compassionate vision of Islam, one where the rule of law and the rule of the heart are one and the same. Part 1, the author, his context, and the revival of legal thought. To fully appreciate the gravity and scope of Shaykh Tahir-ul-Qadri's legal philosophy, one must first understand the man himself and the historical context in which his work emerged. Born in 1951, Shaykh Qadri is a figure of remarkable scholarly pedigree and intellectual versatility. He received a traditional Islamic education, immersed in the classical texts of hadith, jurisprudence, fiqh, and theology, and simultaneously pursued modern education, earning a PhD in Islamic law from the University of the Punjab. This unique blend of traditional and modern learning allowed him to become not only a jurist of the highest caliber, but also a scholar who could bridge the gap between classical and contemporary thought. He is a jurist consultant who has advised the Supreme Court of Pakistan and a professor of constitutional law, but he is also a spiritual master who has authored hundreds of books and delivered thousands of lectures, profoundly influencing millions of people around the world. The intellectual context for his work is one of great challenges for the Muslim world. In the post-colonial era, Islamic law has often been sidelined, misunderstood, and even vilified. It has been reduced to a rigid and literalist code by some, while others have dismissed it as irrelevant to a modern secular society. In this milieu, Shaykh Tahir-ul-Qadri emerged as a revivalist, a mujaddid, whose mission has been to present Islamic law in its true, comprehensive, and dynamic form. His work is a continuous engagement with both the rich heritage of classical Islamic jurisprudence and the pressing issues of modernity. He seeks to demonstrate that the Shari'ah is not a static historical artifact, but a living, breathing legal system that is capable of providing ethical and legal guidance for all times and all places. He has meticulously re-examined and re-articulated the principles of Islamic jurisprudence, a field known as Usul al-Fiqh. His work is a testament to the idea that the gates of independent reasoning, ijtihad, are not closed, and that the Islamic legal tradition, far from being rigid, is a source of immense intellectual flexibility and ethical depth. He argues that a true understanding of the law must be holistic, embracing not just the letter of the law but also its spirit, its objectives, and its ultimate purpose. His legal philosophy is thus an intellectual project of revival, a powerful and scholarly attempt to restore the Shari'ah to its rightful place as a source of divine wisdom and human flourishing, animated by a profound spiritual vision. Part 2. the foundational sources of Islamic law. At the heart of Tahir-ul-Qadri's legal philosophy lies a deep and unwavering reverence for the foundational sources of Islamic law, the Qur'an and the Sunnah. For him, these two sources are not just historical documents, but the living and eternal sources of all legal, ethical, and spiritual guidance. His scholarship in these two areas is monumental, and his legal theory is built upon a profound and sophisticated understanding of them. The Qur'an, the primordial source, Shaykh Qadri views the Qur'an not merely as a book of legal pronouncements, but as the foundational source of all wisdom, jurisprudence, and ethical guidance. He argues that the Qur'an is the eternal and uncreated word of Allah, and it is the ultimate authority in all matters. His approach to Quranic exegesis, tafsir, is holistic and contextual. He emphasizes that one cannot understand a Quranic legal verse without understanding the entirety of the Qur'an, its ethical framework, and the spirit of the divine message. He also stresses the importance of the internal coherence of the Qur'an, arguing that it is a seamless text where different verses illuminate each other. For him, the Qur'an is the source of all law, and all subsequent legal derivations must find their ultimate justification within its pages. He is a powerful voice against a selective or decontextualized reading of the Qur'an, insisting that its legal pronouncements must always be understood within its broader, ethical, and spiritual framework of mercy, justice, and compassion. The Sunnah, the practical manifestation of the law. Shaykh Qadri regards the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, his sayings, actions, and tacit approvals, as the second and equally authoritative source of Islamic law. He argues that the Prophet's life was a living, breathing commentary on the Qur'an, and his example is the ultimate legal and ethical model for all believers. His scholarship in the science of hadith is extensive and highly respected. He has authored a monumental work on the subject, al-Minhaj, as-Sawi min al-Hadith, an-Nabawi, which is a compendium of over 1,100 authentic hadith. He emphasizes that the Sunnah is the practical manifestation of the Quranic message, providing the details and the methodology for implementing the broad legal and ethical principles of the Qur'an. He rejects the idea of a Shari'ah that is based solely on the Qur'an, arguing that without the Sunnah, the legal system would be incomplete and unworkable. For him, the Prophet's role was not just that of a messenger, but also that of a legislator, a judge, and a spiritual guide, and his Sunnah is an indispensable source of law that must be followed with love and devotion. Part 3. The secondary sources and the principles of jurisprudence. Beyond the foundational sources of the Qur'an and Sunnah, Shaykh Tahir-ul-Qadri's legal philosophy provides a sophisticated and nuanced understanding of the secondary sources and the principles of jurisprudence, or al-Fiqh. These principles are the intellectual tools that allow jurists to derive legal rulings for new and unprecedented issues, ensuring that Islamic law remains a dynamic and relevant system. Consensus ijma, Shaykh Qadri views ijma as a crucial and authoritative source of law. He defines ijma as the unanimous consensus of the scholars of a particular generation on a legal ruling. He argues that the consensus of the companions of the Prophet holds a particularly high authority, as they were the closest to the source of the revelation. He also maintains that ijma is a continuous process, and that the consensus of later generations of scholars is also a valid source of law. For him, ijma is a manifestation of the divine promise that Allah will protect the Ummah from falling into error. It is a source of legal stability and unity, a powerful bulwark against sectarianism and intellectual anarchy. Analogical deduction qiyas. Qiyas is the process of extending a legal ruling from an original case to a new one based on a common effective cause. Shaykh Qadri views qiyas as a necessary and indispensable tool for the application of Islamic law in the modern world. He argues that qiyas allows the law to be flexible and adaptable, ensuring that it can address new and unprecedented issues. However, he places a strong emphasis on the importance of preserving the spirit and intent of the law. He warns against a mechanical or literalist application of qiyas, arguing that it must always be guided by a deep understanding of the overarching principles and objectives of the Sharia. The objectives of Islamic law, maqasid al-Shari'ah. This is perhaps the most crucial and spiritually profound aspect of Shaykh Qadri's legal philosophy. He argues that Islamic law is not a set of arbitrary rules, but a divine system designed to achieve certain higher objectives. He meticulously details these objectives, which are traditionally identified as the protection of religion, life, intellect, progeny, and wealth. He, however, infuses these objectives with a deep spiritual and ethical dimension. He argues that the ultimate maqasid of the Sharia is to guide humanity to Allah's pleasure, mercy, and love. The protection of life is not just a legal obligation, it is a spiritual imperative to honor the sanctity of a life that is a divine trust. The protection of religion is not a call for fanaticism. It is a call to protect the individual's right to worship and to pursue a path of inner purification. For Shaykh Qadri, the maqasid, al-Shari'ah, are the very soul of the law, and any legal ruling that contradicts these higher objectives is to be rejected. This is where his legal philosophy is beautifully infused with his Sufi sensibility, presenting a vision of the law that is both intellectually rigorous and spiritually compassionate. Part 4. The dynamic and holistic nature of Islamic law. Shaykh Tahir-ul-Qadri's legal philosophy is not a static and rigid system, but a dynamic and holistic one. He argues that Islamic law is a living tradition and is capable of providing legal and ethical guidance for all times and all places. His work is a powerful refutation of the idea that Islamic law is outdated or irrelevant to the modern world. Ijtihad independent reasoning. He views ijtihad as an ongoing necessity for the modern world. He argues that in a world that is constantly changing, jurists have a religious obligation to engage in independent reasoning to address new issues. He rejects the idea that the gates of ijtihad have been closed, arguing that such a view is a betrayal of the dynamic and intellectual tradition of Islam. He, however, places a strong emphasis on the qualifications of a mujtahid, one who can perform ijtihad, arguing that a jurist must not only have a deep and profound knowledge of the Qur'an and Sunnah, but also a comprehensive understanding of the objectives of the law and the realities of the modern world. His own legal opinions and his scholarly works are a testament to the ongoing and necessary practice of ijtihad. Sufi ethics and jurisprudence. This is the most unique and distinctive aspect of Shaykh Qadri's legal philosophy. For him, the law is not just a set of rules, but a means of spiritual purification. He argues that the highest form of legal observance is not just external compliance, but an act of profound love and devotion for Allah and His Prophet. He integrates the Sufi concepts of the purification of the heart tazkiyah, the cultivation of a state of spiritual excellence is sin, into his legal theory. He sees the law as a spiritual discipline, a path that guides the seeker to a state of inner peace and tranquility. For him, a person who observes the law with a sincere heart and a pure intention is not just fulfilling a legal obligation, but is embarking on a profound spiritual journey. The law of mercy and compassion. Shaykh Tahir-ul-Qadri's legal philosophy is ultimately a philosophy of mercy and compassion. He argues that the ultimate purpose of the Sharia is to bring ease user and to alleviate hardship haraj. He is a powerful voice against a literalist and punitive interpretation of the law, arguing that the divine law is a source of divine mercy and that it must always be applied with compassion and wisdom. He views the law as a vehicle for the common good maslahah, arguing that any legal ruling that causes undue hardship or injustice is to be re-examined. His work on the legal status of non-Muslims, his anti-terrorism fatwa, and his views on women's rights are all a testament to this compassionate and holistic vision of the law. He presents a vision of Islamic law that is dynamic, just, merciful, and profoundly relevant to the challenges of the modern world. Conclusion: a synthesis of law and spirituality. In conclusion, Shaykh Muhammad Tahir-ul-Qadri's legal philosophy is a profound and comprehensive contribution to contemporary Islamic thought. It is a synthesis of the classical and the modern, the legal and the spiritual. He has meticulously re-articulated the foundational principles of Islamic jurisprudence, demonstrating its intellectual rigor and its dynamic nature. He has shown that the Sharia is not a static legal code, but a living system rooted in the Qur'an and Sunnah, and guided by a profound spiritual and ethical vision. His main contribution lies in his ability to integrate the spiritual and ethical dimensions of Islam into his legal theory. He has shown that the law is not an external imposition, but an inner discipline, a means of spiritual purification and a path to drawing closer to Allah. for him. The ultimate goal of the law is not just to regulate our external lives, but to transform our inner reality, to cultivate a heart that is a sanctuary for Allah's love and mercy, in a world that is often torn between a rigid legalism and a spiritual anarchy. Tahir-ul-Qadri's legal philosophy offers a path of balance and moderation. It is a powerful reminder that the true essence of Islamic law lies in its ability to bring about justice, mercy, and compassion, and that a true understanding of the law requires not just a knowledge of its rules, but a profound love for its source. It is a legacy that continues to inspire millions of people to seek a holistic and compassionate vision of Islam, one where the pursuit of law and the pursuit of spirituality are one and the same. Thank you for joining us on this intellectual and spiritual journey. Please subscribe to our channel to continue our exploration of the rich and profound essence of Sufism.